25 years it's been I've worked in early years and childcare plus, and when I think back about the practice that I did as a play worker, as a preschool worker, as a children's centre manager, as a development officer, I'm always going back to that route and commitment to partnership delivery. And the last thing I wanted to do today was to give anybody the impression that partnership working is something that's new. But it's something that continues to be really important. And actually, this slide clearly demonstrates that partnership working is still happening, because all of those logos on the bottom, and I suppose I could or should have put the Department for Education's logo on the bottom there too. But the government asks us all to deliver early years and childcare. They ask providers, they ask local authorities, they ask all sorts of people to deliver. And one small part of the jigsaw is, at the moment, the Childcare Works programme. And the Childcare Works programme is DFE funded. And we work with the department as a partner. And as a partner, that's about working through the different relationships and the responsibilities that we have. And my commitment to partnership working is I'll complain, I'll talk about what I'm not happy with, I'll say some things aren't working, and what do we need to do to work together to make that work. I'm a partner with Action for Children, and we have that same relationship too. It's one of mutual respect and mutual support, but working together. So my practice has always been about equal value and respect for all types of provision in the early years and childcare sector. For me, it's the practice and the quality of practice that matters, not the name of the building or the name or the title of the practitioner that is delivering that practice. So I think I probably had a really good induction into the sector from somebody who was really amazing, because those values were something I learned right at the beginning when I was working with childminders and preschool workers and schools and health and the police and all sorts of people that I brought into my setting. And they still drive our work as a Childcare Works programme now. Now, in 18 years of being the director of Hempsall's, our role has always been to stand side by side with providers and with local authorities, with government and other people, to say, this is what we need to be doing, this is what we've been asked to do, how do we make sense of it, how do we work together to deliver what we need to do. And that was, going back from the business, it's about early years development and childcare partnerships, the Sure Start local programme, initiatives, children's centres, EYFS. I remember crossing a picket line outside the DFE of people protesting about the EYFS and how dare we have the EYFS. So a lot of the work, it's astonishing to remember those days, given that I think there'd be a much bigger picket line outside the DFE now if the department thought about taking it away. So a lot of change in the sector and a lot of working. But I think a key point is, if I was running my business in the same way I was 10 years ago, I wouldn't have a business anymore. And one of the things I decided 10 years ago was to really ramp up the delivery partnerships that I had, to connect stronger, better with other organisations in the sector. And I wouldn't be given the opportunity to lead the Childcare Works programme without developing partnerships with people like Mott MacDonald and Action for Children. It just wouldn't be possible, because we come together as a partnership with mutual respect, but also to play on each other's strengths. There's things that Mott MacDonald do in Childcare Works, data crunching and spreadsheets, which really I'm not interested in doing. I'm interested in getting them, but I'm not interested in doing, because I like to be out and with people and talking about what needs to be happening and supporting people to think about the ways forward. So for us, partnerships aren't a massively new idea, and I'm sure for many of you here today will agree with that, and you'll be able to describe in your discussions together the partnerships and the connections that already exist, because children are transitioning from different partners in the early years and childcare sector. You know, the car park transitions are not exactly something that we want to be seeing in the future. 30 hours is having a difference with families and their car park transitions, but what we see are really wonderful transitions between different providers in the delivery chain. So it's incredibly important that we're flexible and that we're sharing and that we're collaborating and that we're changing. But I think it's really important to say it's playing to individual strengths, and it's not about a partner having a more powerful partner having the best slice of the cake. It's about not only childminders picking up the bits that other people don't want to deliver. It's about what's best, what makes sense, because we in the sector as providers are the experts about how we can deliver better and in a quality way the expectations that government want from us and what they're funding for us. So I think that's really important to say. Now, our directions as Childcare Works, I'm here as the National Programme Director for that programme. We're a year into a 2-year contract, and we're a small team to support the delivery of the new extended entitlement to 30 hours. We're also vitally interested in maintaining and growing the entitlement for least advantaged 2-year-olds. Many of you may have met me through the delivery of the Achieving 2-Year-Olds programme, which we ran 2012 to 2016, which was like Childcare Works for 2-year-olds. We're working alongside providers and local authorities to introduce this new 15-hour funding for the least advantaged 2-year-olds, families on certain benefits and in low-income families. Again, a programme that lots of people complained about at the beginning, saying it was impractical, it wasn't well funded. But what we ended up was breaking through those challenges and finding actually a whole raft of providers massively committed to bringing least advantaged 2-year-olds into settings earlier to help them with their social mobility and narrowing the gap between them and their more advantaged peers. And I was delighted to see that 2-year-old funding continues, which is an amazing achievement based on need, the difference that we're making, and the commitment that we all have. So we're also focusing in the programme about the sufficiency of places for 30 hours. Do we have them where we need them? Do we have them in the way in which families want to use them flexibly, sustainably? And do children who have SEND have access to those places equally too? Now, some of you here today are from a local authority, but not too many. But if you are from a local authority, you will know that we've worked with you for the past year, supporting and challenging your local implementation. You will have just submitted a new data return to us to tell us what the numbers are happening locally, what are providers saying and thinking, are parents complaining about lack of access to 30 hours or what are the delivery challenges to you locally in each of those 152 different and diverse areas. And that's a key role for us is to be, I always say for local authorities like Pinocchio, we're like Jiminy Cricket on their shoulder saying, yeah, but you could do it like this, or have you thought about that, or why don't you go to Barnsley and have a look at how they're doing it, because they've really sorted this problem out that you're telling us is unsolvable. So a lot of work. And there's so much work in getting 30 hours going. It was a real head scratcher when we woke up with the new government and with that manifesto commitment for 30 hours. An awful lot of scratching of heads looking at how that will work. And scratching of heads continues too. You know, this is still an implementation debate and discussion. And nobody knows that more than us. Between October and February, we met 10,000 childcare providers across the country to look at how 30 hours may or may not work for them and talk through the solutions, the ideas and the experiences, particularly of early implementation, but not just that as well. So a key role for us is to move information around. And if you're a provider who has not yet gone onto the childcareworks.co.uk website, then that's something that you need to do, because on there you've got presentations and ideas of different models of delivery, of different settings from across the country, saying what their experiences have been about delivery and the lessons that they've learned as well. So please have a look at that. So journey so far, it's not been a smooth road for all. It really hasn't. It has been a bit bumpy for some. But we have seen lots of solutions. We have actually seen hundreds and thousands of providers saying, actually, this works. What works for us, it fits. We've got the ability to stretch. We've got the resource. We've got vacant spaces, the local funding. Yes, we'd like more, but we can make it work. But as well, we've had people saying this does seem very different to the model of delivery that we have, and change will be very difficult for us. We can't expand in our local community hall, or this is what we're used to delivering, so something needs to change in terms of what's being delivered. That said, the picture overall across the country is very positive, and I'm still pouring through that new data return that we've had from local authorities now. But sure as eggs is eggs, we are talking to people about if there are delivery challenges, and we talk to the department, we talk to the local authorities, and we work with lots of providers too. So there's a lot to be hopeful for 30 hours in working with in partnership. We've had a lot to grapple with, though. We've had the new childcare choices system, we've had HMRC systems, we've had HMRC working with the department. Intergovernment department working is never easy, and there's been some successes there, but some frustrations too. I wanted to highlight a couple of things really in terms of some examples of delivery really if you were to visit the Childcare Works website. For example, Barnet Early Years Alliance presented at an event that we did encouraging schools to consider how they can respond to the 30 hours agenda. And they're a hub of 3 Ofsted Outstanding maintained nursery schools and a Sure Start Children's Centre. But I think it's important to say on our website we've got examples from childminders, from voluntary organisations, from preschools, from sessionals, from packaways as well as full daycare nurseries. But it was clear from their presentation, and you will see it if you look at it, and there'll be examples that will echo these messages this afternoon, that there's lots of opportunities for 30 hours to work. But what they are continuing to do, and this is a key message, is to continue to talk to their local parents, potential users and current users about how that fits for them, because demand changes. This availability already is changing parent behaviour, but then it changes behaviour over months. So families are thinking, well, how does that affect the way in which I work? How does it affect the number of hours I work? Can I work? How does it affect my partner's work? What about where we're living and what else we're doing? And that changes behaviours, which changes childcare take-up. We've had a lot of codes generated and a lot of take-up of 30 hours, and that's really something to have a look at. In fact, I've got some figures on that. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at some figures on 2-year-olds first. I like this bus. It reminds people that 2-year-old funding is still available and still being delivered for hundreds of thousands of children each week. It was 71% of eligible 2-year-olds are in receipt of their 2-year-old funding as of the last statistical first release that came out just this summer. So 71% take-up of something that's optional and targeted at least advantaged families who often need to be convinced and given the trust to start to use services is an amazing result, and anybody in this room that has been part of delivering that, you have my thanks for that on behalf of those families. But I also am aware that 70% or so, actually I thought we changed these. I've not changed the top figure. This circa 200,000 figure, let me give you a new figure for that, and it's 164,000. So I'll change that before we get it published. But that's because the number of eligible families goes up and down according to people's economic circumstances and birth rate as well. The birth rate has gone down for eligible 2-year-olds. So 71% is about 164,000 2-year-olds. So I think figures like that are awful because you don't. Who knows what 164,000 2-year-olds looks like? I know what 52 5 to 11-year-olds looks like in a holiday play scheme. I still have the nightmares. I know what a classroom of children looks like, and I know what 50 children on a bus looks like. So actually, 164,000 children on 50-seater buses means 3,280 50-seater buses, and if they were to stand bumper to bumper, that's an astonishing 25 miles of 2-year-olds in their early learning entitlement today, now, which is amazing. Now, I've done the same sort of figures on 30 hours, and we've moved from the bus to the tube now. The good news is that around 300, and these figures change all the time, but 337,000 codes have been issued for families eligible for 30 hours, and about 216 and growing have taken up their place, because we all know a parent doesn't find out about they're eligible for childcare on the Monday and put their child in on Tuesday. It's something I'm continually telling people that doesn't happen. Having said that, I did meet a mum once who found out about 2-year-old funding and used it the same day. So it is absolutely possible, but also I've met a lot of families that use it months later, because you don't just find out you can have childcare and you can work on Monday, find a job on Tuesday and get your child into childcare on Wednesday. So it does take a time for some of those codes to convert into children using. But that's amazing, 216 children. That would fill 207 trains on the Metropolitan line, which would stretch 17 miles across the underground network. That's a lot of children that we are all delivering for, which I think is amazing to celebrate so far. So what else do we do? Well, just to finish off really, Childcare Works, we are continuing to work very hard over the next year. We are a small team, but we do have a lot of reach across the country. And one of the things that we're doing, we always do for local authorities, is in-depth meetings to address particular challenges or common issues. So I've just done 2 on how we get the message across to families and providers around the facts of 30 hours and what's happening. And those 2 were really great. We've done in-depths on working schools delivering on sustainable business models, on all sorts of issues. We're continuing to work with Action for Children on special 30 hours LED events, and the next round of LED events will be in the spring, so look out for those. We will be deploying targeted work in all of those local authorities where we feel there is a bigger challenge or a risk to delivery, and doing much more to share information around widely. Yes, we put stuff on the Childcare Works website, but we also distribute information through the Action for Children newsletters and put pieces and articles in Nursery World, certainly about the early implementation. That series has just finished, but also responding to some of those urban myths and understandings that inevitably do generate. So we'll continue to support providers and the childcare markets to respond to what will be increasing and growing demand throughout the year. More children will become eligible spring term, summer term and next September. So you will see those patterns when you're a provider. We're looking at the experiences of how it's affecting providers now. We're all live from this September. So how is it affecting settings? What are the issues? What are the things that we need to be learning from, and pushing that information around, and supporting families to understand what's available so that they can access all of their entitlements. So if you need to access anything else, we've got an email direct to us for the Childcare Works team there. We have the Foundation Years website, where we do place regular updates on 30 hours and 2-year-olds. And you can visit the Childcare Choices site, which is the HMRC DFE site for parents to access. I suppose own goal here, the only website that's not on that slide is ours. So I'll repeat that it's the childcareworks.co.uk website, and I hope that's been a useful update for you, and I look forward to working with you for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Great.